Ready. I am finally ready. 8, 9. Hello, good morning, Mr. Patil. I'm so sorry to keep you waiting. And everybody else. But today was different. I'll tell you how. I hope you can hear me. There's no problem with the audio, right? So we'll begin. It's already 8, 9. Yeah, LinkedIn is good. LinkedIn is good. Yes, perfecto. So let me set this up. Bum bum bum. Bum 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 bum. Bum 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 bum. Bum 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 bum. Bum 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 bum. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Thinker's Frequency. We're having such a good time. This is the peak of human civilization. We're working so hard, doing such good work for ourselves, our parents, our kids, our siblings, our husbands, our wives, our friends. Well, everybody. Not other people's husbands and wives, I hope. And just when we thought things couldn't get any better, like they couldn't possibly get any better, well, they just did. Call it divine intervention, folks, but things just got a whole lot better. Now we have Thinker's Frequency, our daily dose of insights and analysis which don't lead to paralysis right before we punch in. Our daily mental workout. So let's continue with our journey of reading between the lines things that are especially interesting and important in the world of business and finance. Let's go. Oh, but before we go, we got to follow tradition, right? You know the tradition? The sweet and sacred tradition of the simultaneous sip. And all we need for the simultaneous sip is a cup or mug or glass or tank, a chalice or stein, a canteen jug or flask or a vessel of any kind. Pour it with your favorite liquid. Today I'm having coffee. Black. And here we go. Oh my god, this is beautiful. This is some great coffee. This is just beautiful. Let's take it again. Beautiful. Sublime. So, this coffee today, which I'm having, has been sent by a very regular viewer of Thinker's Frequency, Mr. Sumanna. He's an entrepreneur and he's also a farmer of coffee in Karnataka. So he he grows this very high quality Arabica coffee, and and now which brand coffee? It's called Humble Bean, Mr. Tiwari. Humble Bean coffee, and it's by our very own Sumanna, Mr. Sumanna. He watches Thinker's Frequency, and he has this brand. Okay, now he grows this coffee. He has his own farms. He's a farmer, like a literal actual farmer. And then he has this whole brand which he's set up, which is called Humble Bean Coffee. Now this is a very artisanal kind of a coffee coming straight from the farms. And he's a very nice person. So he watches the show every day, but he read that post I wrote for 50 episodes of Thinker's Frequency, that I completed 50 episodes. I said the simultaneous sip should have coffee. And then he sent this coffee. This is so beautiful. Lovely coffee. It smells like something else. Like, even the box was so raw, so beautiful smelling. It was really nice. So, cheers to our viewer of Thinker's Frequency and his beautiful independent brand called Humble Bean Coffee. Now, please note that this is not a paid advertisement. I don't do paid advertisements. I'm very lucky money wise. But it's a very kind gesture on him to actually send his labor of love. I feel compelled to, uh, you know, talk about it. That said, I had something interesting yesterday. Yesterday was very interesting. So, what happened yesterday was that I had a sleep issue. I have a very fragile sleep, okay? And I sometimes have to use melatonin gums. I use melatonin gums quite regularly actually, since past 60 days I've been having them, work very well. But I ran out of supplies of melatonin gums like a couple of days ago, 4 days ago. And my sleep broke yesterday night and I was awake. Okay. And so I couldn't sleep. I was trying my best. What did I do? I tried looking for a movie. Okay. So I went on Netflix. I saw a Sandy Wexler titled thing. Now I went on the internet to read about the movie, right? Just so I should have some background before I watch movie. I've watched a lot of movies as I've already shared a lot of times. I'm a huge movie buff. So I wanted to read about this movie, Sandy Wexler. So I said Sandy Wexler, okay, on Google. And suddenly all of this IMDb linked Google Gemini's AI overview came, right? I don't like that. So I have to read like a Wikipedia page because that gives me all the information I need. So I said Sandy Wexler Wiki. I still couldn't find the Wikipedia page. On the first page, the whole first page, I couldn't find the Wikipedia link. Then I said Sandy Wexler Wiki movie. Okay? And then I could find Wikipedia buried somewhere. Right? The Google AI Gemini overview was built upon IMDb and there was no Wikipedia. So essentially, Google's AI overview killed Wikipedia. How does that sound to you guys? I mean, is this a revelation or what? Did you notice it? Have you noticed that Wikipedia has just basically gotten killed by Google? Now, this is what happened. I wrote a piece about it very recently that Google has been a perpetual motion machine. It's like straight out of a movie, right? It's like all powerful. It's like uh, straight that company out of Terminator, right? I forget Skynet. It's like Skynet out of the Terminator series, right? All powerful AI and so on and so forth. However, when you look at uh, what has been making money for Google for all this while, ever since they started in 1995, uh, 1994, 1999, 1996 or 7. Anyway, they got public in 2001, I guess. But let's say 1999. Ever since they've been alive, almost all the money they've been making has come from Google search, right? Uh, like 80% of profits, 70% of 60% of revenues, 80% of profits. Even now, Google, it's all from just search and ads, right? And I'm not even counting YouTube when I say 80%. So basically, all the money that Google has ever made and is continuing to make is because of search. Now, search has gotten attacked, you know, like brutally because people are not using search like they used to. So just yesterday, I got a message from somebody and they said, I chat GPT you. Chat GPT you. So instead of I Googled you, it was I chat GPT'd you. Now that was mind blowing for me because this is a paradigm shift, right? Mr. Tiwari says that's why blogs are also on decline. Blogs are not on decline, blogs are dead. Dead as disco. So what's happening with blogs is that their traffic has gone down 70 to 80% because of that Google overview thing. Now two things happen. This is the surface level news which anybody can figure out, okay? But the point is what happens to the people who feed this Google overview? What happens to the media companies who write everything? Which Google AI can scrape to give this overview? If it's not linking people to the links anymore, and if it's just giving an overview by itself, what happens to those guys? They die, right? They die because let's say if you have a company, a media company, and you did everything you could, you write articles and so on and so forth, and a large part of your traffic came from Google, right? A part of traffic can come from social networking, and the other part of traffic can come from Google. Right now, the social networking traffic is already dead because they don't let you go to the links, right? They want you to stay in social media, so they have their own browsers. Your links don't open, so you've got to write everything there itself, and so on and so forth. So social media is not that great of a traffic generator for media companies. The traffic generator which existed was Google. What happens if Google just takes it out? That's level 1 of thinking. Okay? Level 2 of thinking is what happens to the AI itself if the people die. Okay? Now, Google AI uses these people to scrape everything, give an overview. In this process, it hurts them by not giving them the opportunity to present themselves. So people don't visit the link, and thus they don't go to the website and look at the ads and make money for the media company. They just look at the overview. This means that the media company won't be able to make any money. If media company is not being able to make any money for a regular period of time, for a big part of time, what happens to to the AI itself, which is scraping from that company, right? Now that's something to really think about, because what's going on with that? If they just killed Wikipedia, who's next? Who's next? That's a very, very important question that we must ask everybody. So, that said, just one second. Great drill down, right? Says Mr. Rajat Mittal, who's my brother. Thank you. Thank you so much. Just one second, folks. I had uploaded I had changed the, LinkedIn description to include Humblebean shout out, but that didn't happen. So I'm just editing the video description. Got it. Perfecto. Yeah. Just one second, folks. Yeah, working. Now, with that said, let's move out. Let's move out of the media company. A lot of people, a lot of ultra HNIs, a lot of big businesses, a lot of these people, when I talk to them about the business I'm building, they're like, why don't you start something like a morning context? And they give me unsolicited advice, right? That you write so well, your writings are so popular. Why don't you start a media company? We'll fund it. We'd like to invest. First of all, like, what will you fund in a media company? I don't need your money to build a media company. Secondly, why would I build a media company in this day and age? Like, why? Building a media company is like, do you want me to kill myself? It's such a bad advice, but I get this advice a lot, that you should do. Man, I'm talking about my business here. I'm talking about the product that I've built. Let's talk about that. And they're like, no, why don't you build something in the media space? And I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, go screw yourself. But anyway, moving on. This is a very, very important development which is happening. We are basically looking at an inflection point as far as the whole media business is considered. The content creation engine is considered. Just imagine you're running a media company and suddenly 90% of your traffic declines. What? Moving on. Rare earth shortage hits Foxconn unit. So rare earth shortage has finally hit Foxconn unit. Apple vendor making AirPods in India faces hurdle in getting raw materials from China. So EV manufacturing, speaker manufacturing, electronics manufacturing, and that is now hitting the biggest player, right? And no word on China as far as the rare earth thing is considered. No news there. So while Mr. Jaishankar went to meet Mr. Wang, and China got that 24% investment green light, right? Now Chinese companies will be able to invest up to 24%, buy up to 24% in Indian companies, uh, with technology transfer and so on, which wasn't allowed until now. While China will get that, India has got nothing as of now, even now. So I'm tracking this every day. That do we get a good news from China? We're not getting any good news from China. So under the radar, under the whole scene, just expect something really stressful going on as far as India China talks are considered. Because if people are meeting, and they're meeting after so long, and there's so much to talk right now, like fertilizer supply getting blocked, rare earth mineral supply getting blocked, China making a world's largest dam, $170 billion dam, and so on and so forth, and there's nothing on that for India. All India got from China was like Kadi Ninda for the terrorist attack. So this is a very, very solid, something must be brewing under the radar that we don't get to see right now. Speaking of things we don't get to see, uh, viewers of Thinkers Frequency would be very happy to know that we are like 60 days ahead of the curve. If you remember, we talked about AC companies and fridge companies and so on and so forth, uh, to have a difficult time. Do you remember why we talked about AC companies and cooling companies, fan companies having a difficult time? Why will they have a difficult time? We discussed that, right? Viewers of Thinkers Frequency, can you think about it? Why would AC companies have a difficult time this year? Fan companies, and so on and so forth. Bad summer. By that, Mr. Patil, you mean good summer, right? Like easy summer. Good monsoon. Good monsoon means easier temperatures. Easier temperatures means less sales for ACs, less sales for fans, and so on and so forth. Uh, that particular bit has proven to be right in numbers. Havells reports came out. The quarterly earnings, revenue fell 6%, profit fell 11%, or something of that sort. So Havells essentially, the numbers, the revenue numbers are right what we saw coming, right? Right what we saw coming. So how great is that? I mean, if we watch something and this is the level of our predictions, it's just amazing, right? It's just beautiful. Speaking of predictions that we had talked about, there's another prediction which has come to light. It seems like FPIs are also watching Thinkers Frequency. So FPIs had the biggest outflow in which sector? Foreign portfolio investors. Just guess the sector of Indian industry which had like the most number of outflows for FPI. Guess, please guess. I'll take a sip of this beautiful coffee. Just take a sip. IT. Mr. Patil, you're right. IT. So it seems like they've been watching all the so sort of pseudo optimism, let's call it, that has literally faded for IT at this moment. They say tariffs, they say AI, they say cost pressures, margin pressures, and so on and so on and so on. And they say it's not gonna way up. So foreign portfolio investors went out of IT. And which sector they must have been looking at right now? That's also a very good question, right? So they are selling in addition to IT, they've also sold one more sector. So can you think about two more sectors which they must have moved away from? uh, IT is one. If you remember, FMCG was second, and auto is third. So how does that feel, viewers of Thinkers Frequency? There are some new viewers I'm seeing. So we discussed, new viewers of Thinkers Frequency, that Indian IT is in deep stress because of AI and the paradigm shift that AI is bringing towards the whole $280 billion outsourcing market. So for the last 58 days, we've been talking about how whoever comes up with sort of an optimistic report on IT is either stupid or is lying, right? And now what we are seeing is that all of those let's say predictions, or let's say thoughts, they are coming to light because that pseudo optimism around IT is fading. Then we talked about auto industry, Indian car industry, which has been struggling because there's not been much growth in the form of car sales. Also, it's been very difficult for entry level vehicles to sell in India because of some basic major consumption slowdown, affordability issues, you know. So it's been tough for Indian auto. And the third industry for which it has been tough has been FMCG, you know. FMCG also under the broader domestic consumption slowdown, which has been plaguing the India Inc. for a long time. So the basic two biggest problems that India is facing right now, we've discussed, are number one, private capex, and number two, domestic consumption. Now these two problems affected FMCG a lot, affected IT a lot, affected auto a lot, and then IT had this geopolitical and AI led risk, right? So all of those things are coming to light. I just gave a rundown to the new viewers. Speaking of something new, e-commerce companies are finding it a bit difficult to manage the Q-commerce selling space. So 10-15 minute delivery of ACs, of heavy things, electronics and heavy consumer goods is proving to be a bit difficult because a dark store is limited in the kind of things it can provide, right? Things it can store, the inventory it can hold, and so on and so forth. And that thing puts a lot of pressure on the supply chain of these companies are considered. Because let's say if you're dealing with e-commerce, you have a cluster, right? And that cluster, it's a hub and spoke model. But that hub and spoke model doesn't work with, let's say, a dark store, a quick commerce dark store. So electronics companies are facing a real problem, but it's a catch 22 situation because this is what's going to happen, right? This is bound to happen. Now if, let's say, a dark store has very limited inventory of an electronics item, a very expensive item, the question to ask is how much of the total sales can that quickness convert? You understand what I'm saying? Let's say if you get a fan or an AC of Havells delivered by quick commerce, but an AC of Voltas delivered by a major e-commerce player, not quick commerce, how likely are you to take the quick commerce purchase? That is the question. And how much are you willing to pay for it extra? Because all that sped up supply chain is going to cost something, right? It's going to cost a lot. It's going to cost a lot to speed up that supply chain. Right now, these people run under a 7-day replenishment play. Now they'll have to do a 1-day replenishment play, right? So how much is a user willing to pay for that convenience? And how much of it is going to actually convert just because something is quick? Now, these two questions are not answered yet. However, since the industry has grown and since the industry has a lot of money, this is a valid question to ask. Speaking of valid questions and this particular industry, Eternal's report came out. Eternal is Zomato, Hyperpure, Blinkit. The group company is now called Eternal. So Eternal's numbers came out and they had a 90% decline in profit but a 40% surge in revenue. So Eternal, that is Blinkit, Zomato, Hyperpure, and so on, they had a 40% surge in revenue but a 90% surge decline in profit sequentially. Now, this report doesn't sound that great prima facie, right? It sounds like, oh, okay, that sounds difficult. However, their stock went up 7.5%. 7.5%. The stock went up just one day, 7.5%. Why? Nobody knows why, to be honest. However, the perception that is being peddled is because the quick commerce play has grown sequentially, and still the company has not made a loss. Uh, this signals a lot of confidence to the investing community. Now, this is a pretty big deal, right? Because you expect quick commerce company making so much of headways, having so many dark stores, it could have made losses, big losses, because its competitors are making losses, right? Huge losses. However, somehow the company has managed to not lose money, which has sort of given it a punch. That's hard to that's slightly counterintuitive, right? It would have been very hard to predict, don't you think? It would have been very hard to predict. I wouldn't have personally been able to predict a 7% jump on stock uh, with this news. So just one second, folks. There's a problem. Seem current bitrate is lower than the recommended bitrate. Uh, we recommend that you stream at a bitrate. Okay, now it's good. Okay, back. Sorry about that. I hope you didn't have any problems listening to me because of whatever was going on, technical difficulty. Mr. Rajat Mittal says impulse buying is higher for vanity products, not sure of consumer durables. Yeah, that's what these people are also talking about. Uh, by They're saying that consumer durables are patient purchases, and it's not clear how many of them would actually convert on quick commerce. However, anything can happen if you just play a deep discount, right? Anything can happen. And once you play that deep discount role, the conversation shifts on habit loop, that we'll create a habit. Now, ideally, that makes no sense, right? Because habit is dependent on frequency of purchases. I can make a habit of buying ACs, if I was buying ACs every day. How can I make a habit of buying ACs when I buy ACs like every 10 years or so? Anything can happen in this space. Uh, Swiggy is a public company, Zomato is a public company, but there are a lot of private companies in the play, right? And they can do whatever they want. So it's going to be a bit of a tough play. But let's figure out. So what I was saying was that it's slightly complicated how Zomato's stock got up. By the way, in a similar way, Ola's stock also went up when it released its horrible, numbers, the quarterly numbers. Does it mean that these particular stocks are getting manipulated in some way? Uh, like, is it possible that some punter guys are actually, you know, pushing these stocks up? Now, if it was just Ola, I would have been like, definitely, that is definitely the case. Because Ola has a very, very bad track record as far as, let's say, ethics are considered, right? Generally, bad ethics, no. But Zomato has Mr. Sanjeev Bichhandani sir as a major shareholder and like the first investor, and he is the top of the tree as far as the ethics ground is considered. He's the best, perhaps not just in India but in the world, right? So anything that has Mr. Sanjeev Bichhandani involved cannot be looked at from a dubious ethical standard, uh, you know, as far as I'm considered. So I'll never think about that. This means that this pump signals real optimism as far as Zomato Eternal is considered. Mr. Chirag Patil, pump and dump. So I hope I made it clear. Moving on, what I've realized is that uh, there are very few people in this country and in this world in general who do genuinely great work and whom you can be proud of, right? Who you can be genuinely proud of for ethics, for the quality of work, for standards, and so on and so forth. And there are very few people in total, right? And Sanjeev Bichhandani sir is one of those people. So anything he's personally involved with uh, might not be that bad. However, nobody's perfect and everybody makes mistakes. And so Sanjeev sir also made a mistake, or let's say Info Edge also made a mistake when they invested in Rahul Yadav's 4B brokers, you know, uh, thing. So it was a total scam. That guy was a con artist, but Sanjeev sir, uh, got into it. So nobody's like everybody makes mistakes. However, from an ethical standpoint, I am very very bullish on Zomato. So because of Sanjeev Bichandani sir. Mr. Tiwari says short-term movement can be irrational. Just wait for follow-up buying. You're right. You're right. But even with short-term, how irrational can it be? Like Ola went up 18% after it came out with its quarterly report. So that's like height of irrationality if you can talk about it. So Adia is pumping into Gujarat's Merrill. This is a very interesting story. Gujarat it's a pharmaceutical company, Merrill, and it has basically micro life sciences company. Very interesting story. Like these people sold their two companies to German companies, big companies, and they started Merrill, and now it's like a $6.6 billion company, and nobody knows about these guys. Like literally nobody knows about these guys. Right now they raised some $200 million as a $6.6 billion valuation, and they've just been out there in the market, with these multi-billion-dollar company, and I'm hearing about them for the first time. Maybe I'm not that connected with the world of biotechnology, but that's that. Moving on, uh, a lot of chit chat happening in the world of politics. Our vice president, Mr. Dhankar, is retiring. He had a heart procedure and he said, I need to focus on my health, and so he's off. So the party will have to find a new VP, but VP is essentially, let's not talk about it. So, Justice Verma, the impeachment proceedings of Justice Verma are on the way. 145 Lok Sabha MPs are backing it. So it's possible that we'll have our first judge of the country get impeached. Ever since we got independence, the first judge to get impeached is Justice Verma in a few years. How does that sound to you guys? Very, very importantly, MiG 21s are retiring this September. So, viewers of Thinkers Frequency would know about Indian aircrafts, Indian Defense Services, Indian Air Force. Now, if you remember, I told you about how Indian Air Force is facing a real drought as far as squadrons are considered. Squadrons are like 16 planes. So uh, India is at the lowest squadron strength since 1965 right now, because a lot of aircrafts that Indian Air Force had were MiG-21s. Now MiG-21s are from 1960s. Okay, so they are a very very old plane. However, most of Indian Air Force planes were MiG-21s. Okay, then came MiG-21 Bison and so on and so forth. But essentially MiG-21 platform. Now in 60s and 70s and 80s, that's like 50 years ago, it was a good plane, right? It was a good plane. Hypersonic plane, first hypersonic plane in India. It was a nice plane. However, from 2000s, when the technology essentially became like 30, 40 years old, 2000, 2010, MiG-21 became a flying coffin. So it got the moniker of a flying coffin. Flying coffin, why? Because it crashed and it killed pilots just while they practiced flying it. So it just killed pilots while they were practicing, right? And that happened a lot. In fact, the track of Rang De Basanti was based on this, right? The crash of MiG-21. So MiG-21 is finally getting retired, and India is at the lowest historic low of only 29 combat squadrons. This is lowest combat strength in Air Force since the 1960s. Even during the 65 war, Air Force had 32 fighter jet squadrons. So 1965 we had 32, and right now 2025, that's 60 years hence, we are at 29. So we are the lowest we've ever been as far as Air Force is considered. And Air Force had been flagging this for a very long time. If you remember, Air Force had been saying like this is screwed up. We need planes. And just imagine what would have happened if we didn't have the Rafale deal sorted, because that was also a very big political crossfire, right? A lot of attempts were made to cancel the Rafale deal. Just imagine what would have happened. We would have basically not had an Air Force, right? Now, there's two ways of looking at it. Number one, MiG 21 goes out September. It was long planned, but it's finally going out. Should mean good things for HAL, right? Because now it'll be under pressure to deliver whatever needs to deliver, and so on and so forth. So, a lot of new fighter planes are going to come in, and so on and so forth. However, viewers of Thinkers Frequency know that fighter planes are an old technology, right? Nobody's going to use fighter planes now in days to come. What are they going to use? Viewers of Thinkers Frequency, can you remind me? What are they going to use? What's the world's battlefield looking like? I'll take a sip of this beautiful. Drones. Drones are the new technology, right? Now, China has made drones, Mr. Patil, you're right, which resemble plane behavior. So essentially, what you're looking for right now at the moment is such an increase in drone technology, in terms of effectiveness, in terms of range, in terms of intelligence, in terms of uh, you know efficiency, in terms of cost, that in times to come you're gonna see that if there's just one person, there's just one battle guy, one soldier, and there's a drone, it'll be cost effective for the drone to just go with a suicide mission and kill that soldier while also killing him. So drones will become so cheap, so effective, so lethal, so, you know, technologically advanced, intelligent, that it wouldn't make sense to have uh, anything else, right? You just count the number of drones and that's it. And as viewers of Thinkers Frequency would know, Mr. Naval Ravikant said something very smart about this, that drones are nuclear technology but without a limiting factor. You can just keep improving drones, unlike nuclear energy, because, sorry, nuclear bomb technology. Because with bombs, nuclear bombs, you just make one bomb and that's enough, right? You don't need to make a 10% better or 20% better nuclear bomb. With drones, you just can keep going higher. China at the moment is building the world's largest navy. The kind of fleet that China is building of navy, it's just unfathomable, and a lot of it is drones, right? So just imagine being a marine soldier, or what our navy, yeah, marine soldier is the right way to put it, right? But just think about being a marine soldier stuck in the water and seeing a fight happening amongst drones. Just imagine that battlefield. What does it look like? So India had this moment where India had less penetration of PCs, that is personal computers, right? India had very less penetration of personal computers per capita. However, India made it up with what? Do you remember? Smartphones. So Indian native population of 2010s was smartphone first. So the first introduction they got of technology was a smartphone, not a computer, right? What if India's falling squadron force, India's falling air force is a repeat of that pattern? What if India saves a lot of money by not investing in fighter jets, but instead parking that money in drone technology? Because these are obsolete anyway. Does that sound smart to you? Does that sound, how does that sound to you? Because this is an inflection point, right? At the moment, India has two choices. First, to have a fleet of fighter aircrafts like everybody else, like China, who's making a sixth generation plane, like America, like everybody else, right? Like import. Obviously, it's a makeshift arrangement. But where should the next investment be going? You know, let's not invest anything in fighter jets now. Let's just import whatever you want to import and spend all that money on drones. How does that sound as a plan? Because effectively, wars of tomorrow and even today are who has more number of drones and quality number of drones. This guy is a winner. You don't even need to fight. So India could have a smartphone moment. Uh, Legend says analogy is not a good way of thinking, Mr. Tiwari. You're right, but this is not an analogy. I'm saying what I'm suggesting or what I'm thinking about. It's not a. You're right. You're right that patterns don't fit. But isn't this? Don't you think this is a seriously from first principles? You have 100 rupees, okay? Your fighter planes are low in number. You've got to spend a lot of money in bringing those fighter planes, okay? Or developing them. You've got to invest a lot in developing that fighter plane technology. But you know that in the next 5 years, fighter planes might just go totally obsolete. So does it make sense to invest in fighter planes and their technology or invest in drones? Now, this particular thing, if you look in isolation, just don't think about the analogy. Think about this in isolation. Does this make sense? And if it makes sense, would it be a repeat of what happened, with the smartphone tech? Is my point. Right now it doesn't make any sense to invest in PC technology, right? Because Intel is dead, right? So it's an obscure technology, obsolete technology. That's what my concept is. I just place that pattern for easier understanding, but that's not how I'm deriving this thinking. So thank you for pointing that out, but I hope I could clarify myself. It's not an analogy. I'm thinking from first principles, and at the same time I'm realizing I've seen this movie before. Moving on. This would depend on the quantum of money we have to invest in R&D of drones. I think making low quality drones won't help. So, Mr. Patil, this is a good point. However, you begin with low quality, right? You begin with something rudimentary, but you focus your investments in that area, is what I meant. Anyway, moving on. Great conversation. Britannia feels the crunch as rising input prices, competition hits margins. They say that Indian consumption is slow, and Good Day Biscuits and this Nusli Wadia group, we are struggling, and so on and so forth. But while they struggle, they say that it's also the overall market which is slow. Now, what do we always talk about? Whenever a company falls or whenever a company is going through a problem, isn't it just easier to talk about the overall market, right? Because some people actually showed good results, right? So we talked about, is HUL's decline symptomatic of an overall decline in the FMCG space, or is it just an HUL problem, right? That was a question we asked, because now people are looking at slightly different perspectives coming out in FMCG, right? There could be some growth and so on and so forth. So is Britannia's crunch Britannia's problem, or is it the overall economy's problem? That is a question we must ask ourselves. I am more inclined slightly towards the former. Moving on, Andhra Pradesh has had a liquor scam. So Andhra Pradesh state liquor retail play, which is called Andhra Pradesh Beverages Corporation, State Beverages Corporation. They seem to have colluded with Tilak Nagar Industries and other players, basically in a cartelization. So basically it's a corruption case where these liquor companies have been parking their legitimate legitimate sales and profits towards these the state corporation, and routing those kickbacks in the form of gold buyings. So this is very important, very crazy. But what happened is Tilak Nagar used its privileged position and influence in Andhra Pradesh State Beverage Corporation to secure massive sales. To retain this advantage, it routed a share of its legitimate revenue to jewelry merchants. The received gold was systematically handed over to syndicate handlers. This gave the transactions a veneer of legal GST. So they were buying gold of their legitimate revenues and giving it up to the Andhra Pradesh State Beverage Co Limited something. So this was very complicated, and not just these guys. So the authorities have estimated that Tilak Nagar gave 350 crores in kickbacks. Some other company gave 210 crores. Some other company gave 30 crores, and so on and so forth. So what did we talk about as far as corruption is considered? Wherever there are, number one, a lot of people, number two, a lot of money, and number three, a lot of time, every system will become corrupt if these three things are in place. So since you can't control time and you wouldn't want to decrease money, the only way to reduce corruption is the number of people in play. So you want to decrease the number of people in play to reduce corruption. And how do you decrease number of people in play? You basically make a technology interface. So earlier there used to be a legend which said that 1 rupee of every 1 rupee that is parked for a poor person, just 2 cents, 2 paisa or 20 paisa go. Rest 98 paisa or 80 paisa basically get stolen by middlemen and so on and so forth. But how did this particular government deal with this problem? You remember? You remember how they dealt with this problem of direct benefit transfers not going to poor people? Can somebody say it? It's a very beautiful thing. Like, we've talked about this, and it's a revolutionary play that only India has been able to do. The Jan Dhan. So bank accounts opened off everybody. No cash. Just now, instead of agents giving cash and getting signatures, direct bank transfers to people, right? So you can reduce the number of people, and only that's gonna solve whatever it can solve. It's Jan Dhan. Is it Jan Dhan? Yes, you're right, Mr. Patil. It is Jan Dhan. So Neeraj Chopra strikes gold with endorsements, and the news report says Olympic medalist brand value stands at 30 million, right below cricketers. Now I'll tell you the right way to read this, Mr. Menon, Jan Dhan. You're right. So I'll tell you the right way to read whenever you see that there is somebody's brand value. Just say 2 words, or it can be, those 2 words can be said in conjunction making 1 word, and that word is bullshit. Okay? Because brand value is nothing. It's fugazi. Like, I could have a brand value of $1 million. Okay? And I could tie it up with different things, different perceptions, and all of those assumptions and so on and so. Brand values don't mean anything, right? What actually means something is how much a person has been able to get in endorsement. However, this scam of an index, let's say, is very popular, where you see that Virat Kohli has this much brand value, or somebody else has this much brand value in X million dollars. And they're like, where is this brand value? Can I sell some of this brand value to cash something out? No, you can't. Can I get this much money through whatever? No, you can't. So where is this value? It's a perceptual brand value. So whenever you read brand value, just know that it's BS. Moving on. A lot of parliament session is going on, right? So Operation Sindhur and everything is going to get discussed. So 2 things are happening: parliament session and this particular, the quarterly earnings. Ultratech net is up, basically with they had merged with India Cements, Ultratech. So now they're looking at that merger in a stronger way, and that particular bit is on. Moving on, DLF also had a very interesting legal case settled, where now they're going to get, so they were part of the Mumbai project, which had like some hub, some company. Now that legal case had been dragging on for a very long time, but DLF has settled it, and DLF is going to go out with the project, and it's going to get some sort of 800 crore royalties or payments and stuff like that. So who makes money? Who makes money? Whenever anything goes wrong, who makes money? Right? Lawyers. Lawyers make money. Lawyers always make money. Lawyers are like anti-fragile. Anti-fragile. Whenever anything goes up, goes bad, they gain. Top companies gear up to rewire ITIs, list out preferred states and sectors. So, viewers of Thinkers Frequency would know we talked a lot about ITIs, that are training institutes essentially. We discussed a lot about how India has a very big skill gap. About 52% of people don't have education beyond primary, and only 10% of people have education beyond secondary, right? So very very bad skill situation as far as this country is considered. So to solve that problem, the government, what it's trying to do a lot of things, but it's trying to revamp ITIs, these training institutes, right? And these are going to give vocational trainings to people. Now, what they were trying to do, government did that. Viewers of Thinkers Frequency would remember that they were looking at privatizing ITIs in a way. That they were looking at only funding ITIs, but making their control go in the hands of private corporations, because they believed it would be more valuable, more profitable if that happened, right? Because companies will know what to train, they'll have a better way of training. Government institutes have the sarkari problem, and so on and so forth. So now that particular bit is taking steam. 60,000 ITI upgradation scheme, 60,000 rupees. Sorry, I'm so sorry. Not 60,000 rupees, 60,000 crore rupees. 60,000 crore ITI upgradation play. Okay. Now this is getting a lot of private interest. JK Cements, Jindal Group, Reliance, Adani, Mahindra Group are trying up. They are dividing states. JK is looking at Uttar Pradesh, Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, while Reliance is looking at Maharashtra and so on and so forth, Gujarat and Andhra Pradesh. Okay, different sectors. I'll talk about the money, how the money is coming. So this project is looking at training like 4 to 5 lakh people. Okay, 500,000 youths by 2028. So they want to train like in total some 4 million people over 5 years, right? 1,080 ITIs getting upgraded. So center will put 30,000 crores out of the 60,000 crores. Half of it comes from the central government. Then 20,000 crores come from the state government. 10,000 crore with co-financing support again with government, and the last 10,000 essentially is basically the 10,000 is co-financed with the government and private sector. So they're making it very easy for the private sector to get involved by footing the bill, almost all of it, and aims to train 5 lakh youths by 2028, with government to scale the mission as it goes. So the total number of people are going to be a couple of millions. 1.44 million people study at ITIs. Now ITIs are the lifeblood. A lot of people think engineering and so on are great, but not everybody is that fortunate to go to an engineering school. As I said, 50% of people are not being able to study beyond primary, right? So ITIs are the lifeblood upon which any country is built. The semi-skilled labor, the manual labor, that is if you can't sort that out, it's a very problematic thing. Now, one of the American right-wing figures is Tucker Carlson. Okay. Now, what he said was, and you can judge whether he's right or wrong, but he said that GDP is not the correct measure of a country's progress or a country's economic might. What the correct measure of a country's economic might is whether a late 20s year, a 28-year-old can buy a house with his earnings and savings. That determines how a country is doing economically. If a early 30s guy or a mid 30s guy or a late 20s guy can buy a house with a regular job, do you agree with this statement? I found it pretty profound, to be honest. It's like, makes sense, right? At the moment, average age of the first time home buyer in US has gone to 42 years of age. So according to Tucker Carlson, US economy is not making sense for anybody. And if you take this particular perspective in Indian real estate, now it's very different in tier 1 cities, metropolitans in tier 2. So maybe if you are remote working, if you are working remotely from a village or let's say a tier 2 city and you have a decent job, now this would India would prove to be successful for you, right? Because as a 28-year-old, 30-year-old guy, let's say you make 10 lakh rupees or 15 lakh rupees or 20 lakh rupees, you have a decent job. Now I'm talking about decent jobs, great jobs. I'm not talking about the per capita income or let's say even the median income, right? You can do something. Uh, let's say you live in a Ranchi or not Ranchi, Araria, Katihar, Purnia, right? You will be able to buy a very decent home for 35 lakh rupees, 40 lakh rupees, in fact, even lesser, right? A decent home with a good salary. That's okay. But when you move to the metros and tier 1 cities, even India fails with this metric totally, right? So I am not sure of the data of the average home buyer's age in India right now, but I'm sure home buyers are not really young people in India. It's an ancestral thing, right? Moving on, 2 million net formal jobs were added in May. So, job data looking good for India. Job data looking good for India. Inflation data looking good for India. Rate cuts happening in India. Then, why is consumption still so low? Right? Moving on, uh, Railways lost 573 crores in 2023 due to lapses, which happens. Can't expect anything better. Speaking of lapses, there's a serious lapse of judgment which happened from the Ukraine, European, and American alliance as far as Russia is considered. They thought not Mr., that comedian Zelensky, he was saying that we are going to talk to Russia just 2 years, 3 years ago, if you remember, if you've been following this, we're going to talk to Russia, but it's going to be we're going to talk to a Russian president, he said, but it's not going to be this president. So basically, what Mr. Zelensky was going for was a regime change operation like Iraq or something of that sort. Now that's backfired badly for America, for Europe, for Ukraine, of course. And Russia says peace talks are not an option right now. It's going to take a long time. And essentially, whatever you've done, right? You've sanctioned us, you've tariffed us, you've took us out from the SWIFT payment system, the global payment system. You seized the properties and assets of our entrepreneurs, but you still couldn't do shit. And now we're going to go do what you're going to do. However, in this process, what's hurting us, who's getting hurt is somebody like India, who are partners with Russia. So we take a lot of Russian crude. So US is basically Europe is basically talking about, Europe is saying that you're going to have a source, uh, you know, trace of origin as far as these supplies are considered, refinery are considered. Viewers of Thinkers Frequency would know that they sanctioned Nayara, which is a Rosneft and Indian Reliance company, right? So due to this, Reliance Industries stock went down 3%. Did you know that? Despite whatever the exceptional gains of Asian Paints and so on and so forth, the stock went 3% down. So very difficult times for US, Europe as far as Russia is considered. Their plan of replacing Vladimir Putin, Mr. Putin, has badly backfired, and the cascading effects of this can be hard to predict. But moving on, let's talk about Stellantis, the Fiat company, Fiat Chrysler merger. They've showed a $2.7 billion loss for the first half of this year because of tariffs, because of restructuring and so on. Bad times for Stellantis, bad times for Renault. Renault has a new chief in India. The viewers of Thinkers Frequency would remember, right? Let's say if you're a CEO of HUL and you got hired 2 years ago, and then the country was doing so poorly that nobody was buying anything, consumption was at a down low, and you're the CEO, and in 2 years you're fired, and then comes the new CEO, and suddenly the country's condition improves, and suddenly the company starts doing well, and you get celebrated as a very good CEO. How much of this is in your control? Not a lot, right? Not a lot. Moving on. China has not changed its lending rates. Uh, China hasn't changed its lending rates. People were expecting for China to fasten its growth. They were expecting that it would decrease lending rates, but they've kept it static, because there are a lot of problems with China right now because of the real estate trouble. China is also going through a very serious domestic consumption decline, and more than domestic consumption decline, what China is facing are problems as far as exports are considered because of the tariff situation, right? So exports are a problem, or at least unclear. They are hazy. The domestic consumption is at a down low. Real estate has an oversupply issue, so a lot of problems. So how does China make up for these problems? It goes with grand building projects. $167 billion, dam in Tibet. The largest navy process is huge. 6th generation fighter planes, and so on and so on. So heavy stuff going on in China. Speaking of heavy stuff, SEBI has allowed Jane Street. Mr. Tiwari, you were right. I guess you predicted this better than anybody. You said that Jane Street is gonna get allowed. Jane Street had parked 4,800 crores. That's $500 million, more than $500 million. They said it's yours. Take it. So they made like $4 billion, 40,000 crores, 4,000 crores and all they gave, parked it, and they said, part of our loot, you can take it. So SEBI has allowed them with restrictions. SEBI says we're gonna watch your trades, no manipulation allowed, and so on and so forth. So Jane Street is back. Jane Street being back, you're gonna see a lot of action happening in the broking space, in the Nifty space, and so on and so forth. So right after Jane Street went off, the trading volumes declined, right, by 20-30%. So people were saying that if Jane Street, Millennial, Citadel, and all of these, Millennium and Citadel, everybody is gonna go out, the trading volumes will become half. So SEBI somehow allowed these guys. So they're gonna be back. Moving on. RBI seeks to tighten norms for digital banking. That's okay. Airtel is now the third largest company by market cap in India. Can you guess the first two? Number one is of course Reliance. Number two is HDFC. Airtel is at number 3, the third largest Indian company in market cap by market cap. That's Airtel. Airtel has done remarkably well. Nobody thought they would be able to survive the onslaught of Reliance so well, but they did. Now, why did people think that Airtel wouldn't be able to fight so well? Because Reliance hit Airtel and the entire telecom sector at a very bad time. At that particular instance, Airtel's Africa operations hadn't stabilized, and they weren't really giving a lot of positive signals, and they were very tough to deal with. Even now, right now, Airtel's earnings in Nigeria have like become half. Why? Because Nigerian currency has gotten devalued by half. So Nigeria is an absolute shithole. It's a very, very terrible country in every way, very corrupt, very poor, and so on and so forth. So their currency has gone down. So they are basically having a massive inflation problem. And what happens to Airtel? Because it earns money in Nigeria, that money is suddenly worth less. So all of these problems were very huge in 2017 when Reliance had come. A lot of money was stuck, a lot of this and that was happening. So people thought, and I was one of them, that I really love, I'm a huge fan of Sunil Mittal sir, but it seemed tough for Airtel to be fighting this. However, they fought back. However, in an interview, Mr. Mittal had said, not related, he had said that the biggest regret I have is that we couldn't create any other business line than telecom. So we got stuck in telecom. We tried different ventures. Airtel also had some different ventures. Which venture did Airtel, Bharti Group go into? So Bharti Group went into consumer goods. I don't remember. But they've tried a lot of ventures, but they were so unremarkable that they didn't succeed, and they got stuck in telecom. So he desperately wanted the group to diversify and do some sort of diversified stuff. Airtel Bank, payment bank, you're saying, right? But that's not a bank as yet. Airtel Payments Bank is a fintech player, right? They don't have a banking license or anything, and that is in progress. So it's a progress in his vision of diversifying the group. However, Bharti had different interests. One second, Bharti Group diversification attempts. One second. So uh, insurance, food and beverage, Delmo. So they tried the Delmo, which they recently exited. So that was Bharti's consumer goods of FMCG play, right? Real estate, they are existing. They have some bit here and there, but they're essentially basically Wink Music. That also, by the way, didn't work out for them. So they tried the Wink Music thing, didn't work out. They should have a startup fund. Unfortunately, I'm nobody to say unfortunately, but Kavin Mittal, Mr. Bharti's son, Mr. Sunil Mittal's son, he started Hike. So he went in a very different direction, Hike, and he got a lot of money. He raised a lot of money from SoftBank because Mr. Bharti, Sunil Mittal, is in the board of SoftBank. So SoftBank invested a lot of money in in Kavin Mittal's, Hike thing, but it didn't work. So moving on, drug companies show healthy numbers. Drug companies are one of the companies which has shown healthy numbers, but some US pain. That's okay. So this is where FPIs are looking at right now. Moving on, smartphone sales are looking at slight rebound, but overall flat. AI making phones more expensive, as we predicted at viewers of Thinkers Frequency would remember. Smartphone business not really picking up. However, Oppo, Vivo, and everybody, they've been able to show some growth. So smartphone shipments rebounded in June, 3 months ended June, rebounding from a 2 straight quarters of decline. Shipments grew 7% on year, 21% sequentially. The research expects that industry to record flat shipment growth in first half of 2025 after recovering in the second quarter. So it's gonna be flat overall, but this particular quarter sort of was okay. Speaking of what's not okay, what we've discussed, Tech Mahindra's CEO says it's a dangerous fantasy to say that productivity will get 80% gains in the next 5 years. That 80% gains in 5 years that other IT services companies are saying, it's a dangerous fantasy. Now, viewers of Thinkers Frequency obviously know that we've had deep discussions on it, but something he says is prudent. He says, we are in a 0 to 2% environment, but this phase has allowed us to stabilize business, control attrition, bring in quality talent. Obviously, as a CEO of an IT services player, he'll have to give a winning perspective. However, it is what it is with IT, right? It is what it is. Moving on, Indian gaming companies are looking now. Gaming companies is side of a misnomer, right? Because when gaming companies, you think about betting companies, but this way, in this particular scene, I'm actually talking about gaming companies like Rockstar Games and Activision and so on and so forth. So proper games, people who make games, right? They are looking at hiring a lot of talent in India. So we discussed, viewers of Thinkers Frequency would remember that one of the very good people have got into the gaming biz, and they were, you remember who? Mr. Amish Tripathi. And he wrote a beautiful article about how Indian gaming industry has the potential to do a lot of cultural exchange. He said that if we can export our culture through games, just like Japan has exported their culture through anime, or so on. K-pop. Korea has exported their culture to Korea. K-pop. We could export our culture, our like deep-rooted culture, through games, and games are a bigger industry than movies. We've discussed this. Viewers of Thinkers Frequency would know. Music and movie business combined are much much smaller than just gaming industry, the video gaming industry. So video gaming industry is finally gaming on, and they are hiring engineers, backend developers, 3D artists, environment designers, and so on. 50 to 60,000 open positions. Now this used to be my dream as a kid, to be an animation gaming guy. Whenever when I was very small, I used to dream of making my own games and animations and stuff like that. But obviously, uh, I'm old now, and those dreams have faded. But yeah, gaming industry might just have a fillip, and this is a great news, because when film industry falls, something has to take its place, and maybe it's the gaming industry, which by the way is a very good idea for PVR. So imagine PVR essentially having huge gaming, video gaming, arenas. No, that makes sense. That has a lot of potential. Is right up their alley. Slightly different, but something that they could think about as cinemas fall. Moving on, longer screen time at work is causing problems. So they did a research where they found out that muscular problems and medical problems are happening to people with longer screen time. Now, they did a survey, and then they also did a research. You know how they could have saved some money on that research? That, hey, do you think longer screen time could lead to physical issues, muscular issues, and even psychological issues? You know how they could have saved some money there, right? Can you guess how they could have saved some money and that particular research? By just asking me. They would have like, we have $1 million. Asking Nishant. Asking Nishant, says Mr. Patil. Yeah. So I would have been like, hey, you have $1 million budget for a research, finding out links between screen usage and muscular health and mental health. Just park half of it, save half of it, give me $500,000, 4 crore rupees. I'll be happy, you're happy. And the answer is yes. Yes, it is correlated. And with that, we come to the end of the 58th episode of Thinkers Frequency. A lot of data to have to unpack today. I'm sorry, and we also started late. I'm sorry about that. But with this, we come to the end of the 58th episode. Our daily mental workout, our daily dose of insights and analysis, which don't lead to paralysis. Right before we punch in, have a beautiful day at work. I hope you have a beautiful day personally and professionally. And I'll see you tomorrow, same place, same time. Bye-bye. Mr. Dua. Thank you, Mr. Patil, Mr. Kalia, Mr. Tiwari, everybody, Mr. Mittal. Very nice talking to all of you. Bye-bye.